Welcome to Thursday Thoughts, your weekly dose of real, honest conversation on all things personal growth. These are the chats Lucy and I love having every week over on Instagram. They're unfiltered, unedited, and always rooted in practical tools and a dose of inspiration. Let's dive in. So we did this yesterday, but let's do it again.
Yes. So
yeah, go for it. You start.
it's always difficult trying to recreate a conversation that you and I have already had it's very hard, but we'll do our best. So basically, what we were talking about yesterday and what we're talking about today is the idea of the concept of mind, mouth, and mood. And I basically heard somebody talk about this and just thought it was a really brilliant way to remember the three things that we should all be prioritizing. In other words, what is going on in our mind, what is coming out of our mouths, and the mood that we're in most of the time. Because ultimately, it is those three things that are impacting our life hugely. And I think what most of us do is we try and work on the external things in our world around us. And we forget that actually the most important thing to work on is our own energy. Because ultimately, everything, energy creates matter. And we are creating, to a certain extent, our realities, depending on not depending on, but we are creating our realities to a certain extent with our thoughts, with our words, and with our feelings. And I just think, we were saying yesterday, this is something that should be taught in schools, but it isn't. The fact that we have so much more agency and so much more power than we realize over the life that we see before us. Because ultimately, it is all a goddamn inside job. And our external reality is a mirror, is a reflection of what is going on inside of us, that our internal landscape. Whatever that looks like, that is going to be reflected on the, in the outside world. It's like we've got to change the projector in order to change our lives. So we have to really prioritize our thoughts, our feelings, and our words. And we have to protect them and be vigilant about them and just be aware of them every single day. Because again, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, you are creating your reality every single day, every moment of the day. We are all energetic beings. And what we forget, and I always come back to this, because we forget that, number one, we're more than 99% energy, all of us. We are literally energy. We are less than 1% actual matter. I mean, that alone blows my freaking mind. And also, we forget that we can only, with our sort of human five senses in this 3D world, we can only perceive a really, really tiny fraction of reality. We forget that there is so much more out there than we can actually perceive. And again, as Albert Einstein said, everything is energy. He also talked about how our imagination is the most powerful tool we have. And again, that comes back to the mind bit of the mind, mouth, mood. Like, what is going on in your mind? Where are you most of the time? What are you thinking about most of the time? What are you focusing on? Are you telling yourself really negative stories? Are you speaking out negative words? Are you complaining? Are you moaning? Or are you speaking words of positivity? And because ultimately, the way that I think about it is, we're either speaking into existence a life that we want, or we're speaking into existence a life that we don't want,
Yeah, exactly. And I think, we talk about this a lot, and I do think it is so important that we continue to talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
Because we both need reminding consistently all the time. And I was saying actually yesterday how, I at the moment have been needing to remind myself of this literally every single day. It's very easy to tell yourself a story, a recurring story, and I feel like I've got very good awareness of my thoughts. But my goodness, recently I've been stuck in this. I haven't been able to move in the usual way I'm used to moving. So my body has been changing. It's different. It's different. I'm not doing what I used to do. So
for anyone who doesn't know, it's because you hurt your knee and you just had an operation, just in case nobody knows.
Yeah. Okay. Everyone seems to bloody know. But yeah, and actually I was doing pretty well to start with, but now that I'm more mobile, but I'm still limited in what I can do. I've still just been sort of putting on the weight, and this is just about how I feel within my body. And so I have been running those stories of like, bloody hell, this, really beating myself up, and particularly obviously the sun's come out, bodies are getting out. And it's like, that voice inside my head has been really unkind and really mean and unforgiving. And so it's important to, catch it. And when those thoughts are recurring in your mind, then it's incredible how those words then come out of your mouth. I'm saying the words in my head, but they're also coming out in my mouth, and I have to watch myself. I have a teenage daughter here. I don't want to talk about weight. So that's when I catch myself. It's like, shh, don't. What are you saying? This is ridiculous. And then it can obviously affect your mood. It makes you feel a little bit shit about yourself. So it's about, what I've been doing. I've caught it. I'm telling myself a different story. I'm taking action. It's like I'm doing what I can. That's all I can do. Okay. I had a weekend last weekend where I literally sat for most of the weekend and ate, which is probably why that story was going around my head. So, yesterday I started afresh. Right. Okay. Let's think about eating super healthily, and let's let's do what I can do. And that's all. And guess what? That new story that in my mind has kind of created a nicer narrative about myself. You're doing everything you can. And of course, it's lifted my mood. It's making me feel so much better about everything. So it is a constant work in progress. We have to be so vigilant about what is going on, because even when you feel like you're on top of it, suddenly that's one of those sneaky little voices in your head starts to take over, because whatever is the most familiar, we will default to constantly, because that is the most comfortable way. That's familiar for us. It's like comfort, even if it's so unhelpful, we'll still default to that way of thinking, of being. So we have to consciously feel that discomfort, whatever it is, even if that is talking to yourself in a nicer way, even if it is doing, for me, it is uncomfortable. I'm having to, it's obviously I want to eat the food and I want to sit, I want to feel sorry for myself and sit still, but it's much more uncomfortable to do all the physio, to do all the exercises, to, slowly, it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything, but actually it's doing so much more. So you've got to stick with that discomfort, but you have to be vigilant of what is of it all the time.
100%. And like you say, you cannot hear this kind of stuff enough, which is why I will never apologize for talking about these same concepts over and over and over again, because we all need to hear them all of the time, myself included, yourself included. It is something, like you say, it's a work in progress. It's a day by day thing. It's a moment by moment thing. But ultimately, coming back, this, if you think about mind, mouth, mood, I love the fact that that's so easy to remember, because it just is a really easy way to remind yourself that those three things are more important than anything else. And again, it's like what we forget is that, we're so busy kind of stressing out about all of the things in our external world. And, we might try and change the things in our external world in order to make ourselves feel better, in order to make ourselves feel more whole. So maybe we think, oh, well, I need to change job, or I need to move house, or I need to buy this, or I need to do that, whatever it is. But actually, rather than focusing on the material things and the matter in your external reality, it's always the first thing you need to do is to come back to your internal world, is to come back to inside of yourself. And it's just all about doing that inner work. And when it comes to your mind, like, this is another thing that you and I talk about. I certainly talk about it ad freaking nauseam on the podcast. It's, what are you allowing into your mind? Who are you spending time with? Because what you are thinking is hugely impacting your reality. So if you're spending time with lots of people who are really negative, who are constantly moaning and complaining, and, today in the UK, it's a beautiful boiling hot day. God knows, I dread to think of how many Brits are going to be like, oh, it's so bloody hot. It's just like, oh my God, if you're hanging out with people who are constantly moaning, you need to really look at that and understand how much that is impacting you, because we become we become the 5 people we surround ourselves with. And it's so, so true. So if the 5 people you spend the most time with have a tendency towards moaning and complaining and negativity, you've got to watch that, because that undoubtedly is going to be filtering into your brain. And as a result of hanging around with those people, you are going to think more negative thoughts, and you're not going to feel so good. So that is such a big one. And also, be really, really, really mindful of what you're allowing into your mind in the form of podcasts and books and the news and all of that stuff that you and I have talked about 5 million times, because it's so, so, so crucial. But that is where you've got to go when it comes to what you're allowing into your mind. And and the mind, mouth, mood thing, that the mind bit, that's what you need to think about. And when it comes to mood, we have to remember that ultimately the way that we feel most of the time, our dominant vibrational frequency, in other words, our dominant emotion, that is the signal that we are sending out into the universe. That signal is what is going to draw people and experiences and things back into our lives. So if you are feeling heavy and down and low most of the time, unfortunately, you are drawing stuff back into your life that's on that same frequency. So we're not saying you have to feel brilliant and wonderful 90%, 100% of the time. Of course not. We're human. That's never going to happen. But we do want to prioritize feeling good every day, so that we're feeling good a little bit more than we're not. Because again, we are, whatever our dominant vibration is, that is the signal that we are sending out into the universal field, where there is every possibility that you can imagine. So the question is, what are you tuning into? What frequency are you tuning into? Are you listening to Shite FM, or are you listening to Joy FM? The choice is yours, because everything is out there. If you're looking for the shite, you're going to find it. If you're looking for the joy, you're going to find it. And Polly and I, we've talked about this so many times. It's about the lens through which you're looking. And when it comes to the mood bit, again, of mind, mouth, mood, again, we're not expecting people to be constantly feeling good, but it's just becoming aware and learning how to just gently shift back into a better feeling state. You don't have to go from feeling depressed to feeling elated, but you can go from feeling depressed to feeling a little bit less depressed,
Yeah, exactly. And as we always say, a great way to do this practically is to start your day intentionally. Because if you start your day, well, we all know if we start our day rushed, hurried, you oversleep, everything, that's when you're going to stub your toe, you're going to spill your coffee down your shirt, everything starts to go wrong. This is not going to affect, again, because you're like attracts like, you're attracting all of that to you because you're in that energy. Whereas if you start your day from a calm, intentional place, then guess what? That generally that kind of sets you off on the right foot. I was talking to someone at the weekend who is in my inner space community, and it was just so brilliant to hear how she has just found that her mornings have really transformed since she's been doing, carving out literally just 20 minutes, and just 3 times a week, because she's a busy mum, she's trying to get her kids out of the school. And actually she was like, do you know what, those 20 minutes, rather, if I don't do them, then I'm tense all day. I just really notice it. But when I do those 20 minutes, when I just calm my nervous system, remind it what it feels like to be calm, and I set my intention for the rest of the day of how I want to show, who I want to be, how I want to show up for myself, everything changes. All the same, it's the same stuff. We're doing exactly the same stuff, but you are coming at it from a very different place. Yeah. And you are going to it's just setting that tone. So then the way you're thinking is calmer, the words that you say are calmer, you're not saying stuff you're going to instantly regret afterwards. It then affects your mood, and you're then going to just be in a better state all day. And the more that we're in a bad mood, that then over time becomes a state of being.
Yeah.
So it really does. So we really do need to think about, what state are we generally in?
Yeah.
And you say you want to be tipping into over 51% of the time. We want to be in feeling good, as good as we possibly can.
Polly, can I just interrupt? Sorry,
Yeah.
can you hear there's a real buzzing when you're speaking, which stops when I'm speaking, but I can hear it's like static, and it's quite distracting.
Let's
Now I can't hear you.
microphone.
Oh no, that's better.
Let's try and put that.
That's so much better. It was just doing
Is that
like
better?
it was doing like a radio static sound.
Yeah, my phone doesn't like me just talking into it like that. Okay, is that better? Okay.
Yeah, that's much better. That's much better.
Okay, so what I would suggest for most people, and morning routines, I know people can kind of feel a little bit about them, because there are some influencers online who literally do about 10 trillion things in their morning routine, and you don't need to do all of that. It is really, what we're talking about here is giving yourself a pocket of time just for you. And even if you are manically busy in the morning, just try and get up maybe 5-10 minutes earlier, a pocket of time just for you to tune in to that inner world, into that place, and just allow your nervous system to calm, to settle, to tune into how you are. How often do you ask yourself, how am I today? And from a calm place, then set your intention for who you want to be. How do you want to show up as you move through the day? How are you going to react and respond to those challenges? Because there will be challenges, but you get to choose how you show up. So are you going to show up shouty, irritable, pissed off, or are you actually just going to be pausing for a moment and actually just take a step back and go, okay, it's all right, I can respond in the way that I decide. And this, for me, has been the biggest life changer, particularly for any of you who've got kids, because often we can, there's quite a lot of moments where, you can hit up against each other. But so when you do this, actually, you prevent so many of those combative moments from happening, because actually you're able to sort of almost zoom out of that moment and think about what you're going to say, rather than just throw out those words. And it just makes everyone feel better.
I will only ever recommend brands that I know, love and use myself. And one of those is Ancient and Brave. Honestly, they've become part of my daily habits. The very first thing I do every morning is pour myself a big glass of water with their True Hydration in it. It feels like such a simple ritual, but it really sets me up for the day. And I know I'm properly rehydrating with their blend of electrolytes and minerals, especially before I exercise, which I always do in the morning. Then later on, when I make my coffee, I stir in their True Collagen powder into the coffee. Now, it blends in straight away, no fuss, there's no taste, and collagen is something we naturally lose as we age, but it's so important for our skin, joints, and overall vitality. Now, I'll be honest, Ancient and Brave may cost a little more than some of the tubs you'll spot on supermarket shelves, but the difference is you're getting the highest quality ingredients, sourced with integrity and tested to a higher standard, and absolutely no nasties added. That's why I trust them and why I think they're worth every penny. And because I want you to be able to try them out for yourself, I've got a special offer for you. As a listener of this podcast, you can get 20% off your very first order. All you need to do is click the link in the show notes and pop in the code POLLYW20 at checkout. They've got more than just collagen and hydration too. They've got creatine, they've got blends, supplements. So it's a perfect chance to explore their range and make the most of that 20% off.
Yeah, 100%. I just had a point and it's gone completely out of my head. Like complete. What were you just saying before that? I've literally just forgotten what I was going to say.
Morning routines.
I know what it was. I know what it was. I know what it was. It was, yeah. And this was something that we mentioned yesterday. It's basically, we've talked about this before, and again, it's one of those things that I will go on and on and on about until the cows come home, because it's so important. But it's shifting into a mindset of starting to live with intention rather than just allowing life to just toss you around. You know, I very much used to live. I mean, I suppose I've always been quite intentional, actually, to be fair to myself. But there was a part of me that would just kind of, you know, be sort of thrown around by wherever life decided to take me. And actually, we want to decide where we are going. We don't want life to dictate to us how our life is going to look. You know, we want to be, steering our own ship. And that really means living with intention. And a morning routine is a really good way to begin each day with intention. And like you say, it doesn't have to be massively long. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. You know, if you can just get up half an hour earlier or 20 minutes earlier and just spend a bit of time, that might just be a walk in nature whilst listening to a podcast. Or actually, no, don't listen to the podcast while you're walking in nature. Listen to the birds. And it's amazing. I mean, I'll give you an example. So this morning, the first thing I did after I'd done my morning routine club, I went for a walk. It was 7 o'clock this morning, beautiful, beautiful day, by the river, birds chirping. I literally went for like 20 minutes. It wasn't a long one. And that alone makes a huge difference to how you feel. Just if you can just go for a 15 or 20 minute walk. But it's this idea of living with intention. You decide. You are the one who is choosing. And again, we are energetic beings. Everything is energy and matter is created from energy. So you want to always come back to your energy and the energy that you are putting out into the world, because it is that is creating or co-creating your reality. It's just as simple as that. And like I said at the very beginning, you know, this is something that we should literally all be being taught in schools. Like, this is more important than any fucking maths lesson that any of us have ever taken. Like, how to think and how to talk about yourself and how to feel. Like, these things are just absolutely crucial. And if you look at the really successful people who are really thriving in their lives, they've nailed this. They understand that it's all about, you know, they're much more concerned with their internal world and the things that they can control rather than what is going on outside. So ask yourself, am I more concerned with everything that's going on around me, or is my attention largely on my mind, my mouth, and my mood? Yeah. Because that is where we always want to come back to.
And I just want to add to that, if you are someone who is naturally on, really super busy, you're doing all the things and you find it difficult to give yourself that time, that space to be intentional, to slow down enough to actually notice what is going on in your mind and your you find all this stuff really difficult, which is absolutely so common. I just want to say that that is probably because you are so conditioned, you are so used to being that way, to being on. Our modern world it's just difficult to find that time and that space, and it becomes so familiar. So actually, it does feel like it feels uncomfortable sometimes to slow down enough to take that walk without listening to anything in your ears, to sit quietly, to tune in. It feels really uncomfortable. So if that is you, then again, it's just about starting and feeling into that discomfort, because it will feel uncomfortable. But we have to remind our nervous system what it feels like to feel for that calm. So it really is a matter of relearning, and that's when actually doing anything which is guided, which is, you know, where there's that support, can be really helpful, because actually it can be quite difficult to do on your own, which is what both you and I do. So that, just to say that, you know, some people find it's not natural for some people to do that, but we as human beings, it is our natural this is what does us good. But our modern world has just reconditioned us to feel, you know, to find that really really difficult. So it really is finding pockets of time to really calm down. And that's why I bloody love breath work and using your breath, because it's literally like the remote control of your nervous system. It's kind of like a hack to try and get into that stillness, to remind yourself of what it's like. There's the dog.
Holly, also, can I just add one thing, which is that, completely hear you, but also, we're all busy. Like, I'm busy. The things that we're talking about here are things that we can be thinking of and aware of whilst we're going about our day. We're not saying you have to sit in stillness for half an hour to be able to do this work. We all have lives, and we're all busy, and it's just that we want to be aware of what is going on in our minds as much as we can. And yes, like, obviously people with kids are incredibly busy, but so are single people. What I mean?
Absolutely. But I think that's it. But I think, people who've got to get up super early to go to their job or whatever it is, might think that they can't do this, but I might be kind of thinking, how do I do that? I can't just go for a walk first thing in the morning because I've got it, or whatever it is. I just think that there's just to be aware that how programmed are you into that feeling of busyness all the time. And when you're programmed into that feeling of busyness all the time and rushing and overwhelmed, and actually sometimes it's very difficult to catch your thoughts because they're always racing. So that is why actually you need to start with awareness. Absolutely set yourself that alarm to go off on your phone, so you can stop and pause for a moment and just go, where are my thoughts? Which is always the first step. Always just notice, and then you can start, noticing, how's that affecting what's coming out of my mouth? How is that affecting my mood? And what can I do to try and shift that? Because it is all connected.
And also, just to challenge anyone who's thinking, I just don't have time for this shit. Well, how much time do you spend scrolling through Instagram? Like seriously, that, serious question. How much time are you spending scrolling? We all fucking do it. So I don't buy that I don't have time, because we all have time. No matter, I don't care how busy you are. I don't care whether you've got 4 children, whatever you might be doing, full-time job, la, 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 la. We can all find the time if we prioritize it, because every single one of us is at some point or other during the day scrolling on social media. And the stats are shocking for how long we are spending scrolling on social media. So actually, is it true that you don't have the time to prioritize this stuff? And ultimately, this is your one life. So prioritizing doing that inner work is the most important thing you can do, not only for yourself, but for the people that you love as well. Mind, mouth, mood. Where are you at? Just checking in. Put reminders in your phone. Check in every hour. What is going on in my mind? What has been coming out of my mouth? And how am I feeling? It's just and that's why I wanted to talk about this particular phrase, because it's such an easy way to remember it. Write it on a freaking sticky and shove it on your fridge door, on the bathroom mirror, on the wall behind your desk, so that you will see it every day and remind yourself. Because this is part of the problem. We can have conversations like this, and then all of us would just go back to our lives, back into the program, back on autopilot. That's why you need reminders. So by literally writing down 3 words, mind, mouth, mood, on a sticky note and posting it, sticking it somewhere you're going to see every day, that alone is the first small right step that you can take,
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. Okay. Well, I think, absolutely. I think that's exactly it. Let's just be aware. Let's just, and ultimately, it means that we can enjoy our days and life so much more when we're not feeling, when we're just more conscious of what is going on.
Exactly. And also I just have to say this one last thing, which is, please remember that your energy is the most important thing. So actually, it's not just like, oh God, I've got to prioritize my fucking thoughts now, my feelings and what's coming out of my mouth. Well, yes, you do, because you are an energetic being. Like, that is science. All of us are. So we've just really got to remind ourselves of that every single day, rather than brushing it off as being a load of woo-woo bollocks. It's not. Yeah. The end. I'll shut up now.
All right. Well,
ranting as usual.
Thank you, and hopefully this is going to work.
Yeah, fingers crossed this saves, please God.
Yeah.
All right, babe. We'll be back on Monday.
Take care.
All right, love. Speak to you later.
Bye.
Lots of love. Bye, bye, bye.